Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be trying out a Pokemon in the Open Grade League that's receiving a little bit of hype as of late to determine if it's a good meta core breaker that's worth using, or if it's cope. I have done a video style like this before, called it Core Breaker or Cope, and today we're bringing it back with Thunderbolt Miltank. Now, Miltank is very interesting in the Open Grade League. Roll out Body Slam Thunderbolt, it gets some really nice wins against some very common meta Pokemon like Azumarill and Ariados. So, today we're going to be testing it out in a team with Araquanid lead and Shadow Drapion on the safe switch. Hopping into the first match, we pick up an unbelievably good lead, leading the Araquanid into Greninja. Opponent safe switches into their own Miltank. And honestly, I was a little bit stunned to see a Miltank, so I was very slow on the swap, and I end up bringing in the Shadow Drapion. This Miltank is on Ice Beam, which is a bit of a surprise to me, because you do need Thunderbolt for certain matchups, as Thunderbolt is very helpful versus Azumarill, although versus Azumarill, to guarantee that win, I believe you do need a little bit of attack to get a rollout breakpoint. Here, I'm just going to go for the full farm down. Greninja's not going to want to take a Thunderbolt from Miltank, so losing Switch is not the end of the world. In comes Greninja, and I'm just going to bring in the Araquanid, because if they're going to Switch Lock this, I may as well put the Greninja in a matchup where it's unable to go for Hydro Cannon. Here, I decided to go for a Bubble Beam and a farm down. I'm not expecting a shield, but I want to exit with energy, and I want to exit with some health. And the best way that I saw to do that was to go for the Bubble Beam, because of course now they're going to be debuffed, and I get to exit with some energy and a little bit of health remaining as well. So they're going to go for the Night Slash. I get the full Bug Bite farm down. In the back is Talonflame, and they're just core broken to shreds by Miltank. They have their own Miltank, but they are core broken by mine, as Greninja, not a huge fan of Thunderbolts, and my goodness, does Talonflame hate these rollouts. These rollouts absolutely shredding through the Talonflame. Talonflame will go for the fly, but at this point, it's just delaying the inevitable. Miltank unleashing another Body Slam. The Body Slams don't even KO from this range, but with each rollout doing that much damage, it doesn't really matter. They're getting KO'd one way or the other. The Talonflame able to hang on 1 HP, making a last second move, but the rollout goes through. They get KO'd. All that's left is their own Miltank, and we're going to be able to take that win as Miltank puts in a ton of work and secures victory. We move to the next match, Araquanid versus Shadow Dragonair. Not the most comfortable matchup here for the Araquanid, just because the Dragonair is able to output quite a bit of fast move pressure. The good news for me is that with the Body Slam nerf this season, is Body Slam from Shadow Dragonair does not hit like it used to. I'm going to farm up to the Bug Buzz, bait with the Bubble Beam, because I'm expecting a shield. People love shielding their Dragonairs. My opponent is going to be firing off their energy here. They're debuffed. I don't know if I can survive this Body Slam. It's going to be close. I can, so I'm going to save that Bubble Beam for later and bring in the Drapion. Drapion going to be answered with Mandibuzz, and this is by no means a good response to Drapion. This means that my Drapion is guaranteed to have value in the back, and my opponent throws after 2 there. That just gives me a free Poison Sting, and Drapion has already spammed me enough. You do not want to give it any free energy. Drapion is going to fire off the Aqua Tail. I'm going for yet another Aqua Tail, and I'm looking for an ability to switch out into the Miltank. Switch clocks up, so I throw 1, the switch, the sneak, and the catch onto the Miltank, catching the Aerial Ace, and in the back, opponent has Azumarill. And Azumarill really not going to appreciate these Thunderbolts, and that's specifically why in the Great League, we are running Thunderbolt. Now, the reason we are talking about Miltank at all is because of SS Thorn. SS Thorn is a trainer who won a massive grassroots Show 6 Pick 3 style tournament featuring the core of Thunderbolt Miltank and Water Pulse Araquanid, so that was the inspiration for the team. I don't have a lot of charge TM, so I did not TM over to Water Pulse on the Araquanid, but I did find a couple times that Bug Buzz was helpful in matchups like Dugong. In comes the Dragonair, Body Slam is going to KO, in comes the Mandibuzz, I get another Body Slam, and this Miltank endgame is just tearing the opponent to shreds. They're down 2 shields. I'm going to bring in the Drapion, and unfortunately, I will have to give up at least 1 shield here. I'm going to try and get it low enough so I can snipe with the Bubble Beam. Unfortunately, I accidentally transferred the damage onto the Araquanid, but it's not going to matter. We have so much energy with the Drapion, so we can safely knock out the Mandibuzz and take the win. Into the next match, Araquanid versus Licky. This is a pretty bad lead for the Araquanid. I'm going to save switch to Shadow Drapion. Licky honestly does something that surprises me quite a bit. They go for the body slam. So this is a rare Licky that's not on Earthquake. If they're going to stay in, I'm going to go for the crunch. This does some very nice damage to Licky. Licky continuing to stay in. Opponent going to switch out and send in their own Shadow Drapion. So the opponent extremely weak to a Mud Slapper lead. I land the Aqua Tail. I don't test the CMP tie just yet. So I'm just going to go for the extra and look to farm up to the back-to-back. I wanted to Poison Sting them into a range where an Aqua Tail would come very close to knocking out. They're going to shield there, and my opponent this time does not go for the CMP tie, as they will go for the extra. Aqua Tail, oh, barely does not KO. They hang on with a fraction of HP. I could go for farm on Araquanid or Miltank. I choose to go to Araquanid, so that way I don't reveal my line. We've got the battle of rollout users, Miltank versus the Licky, and in the back is Superior, and this is going to be a little bit of a tricky game. As Superior does great into all of the rollout users because the rollout users don't get same type attack bonus, whereas Superior has that terrific same type attack bonus combination of the Vine Whip and Frenzy Plant. But Miltank's still going to put up a fight, firing off Body Slam after Body Slam. It's not going to win this matchup, but it's going to get Superior very low. Body Slam gets Superior deep into the red. Superior forced to throw energy, and now I'm just going to trust in Araquanid to win the game. In comes Araquanid, opponent immediately switches out into Licky. I will put up the shield as I want to apply a debuff. They're going to go for the Body Slam. They're at another move, and with no shields to hide behind, I just have to take the damage. But Shadow Ball does very, very little. And the nice thing is I kept my Araquanid at full health all game. So they can throw as many charge moves as they want. They're not getting through this Araquanid. Bubble Beam gets the debuff. Licky firing off another charge attack here. The Shadow Ball, that's not going to matter. Araquanid gets a full farm down, and the opponent will concede the match. Araquanid versus Shadow Magnezone, back-to-back terrible leads. Save switch to the Shadow Drapion, and Shadow Drapion is going to fire off the Crunch before the opponent is able to make a wild charge. Crunch is going to be shielded up there. We do get a defense drop, but my issue is they're probably just going to switch out. I call the bait. It's the mirror shot, and unfortunately my opponent will not let me land that Aqua Tail with a well-timed switch. They're going to switch in Azumarill. Azumarill is a wall to energy from the Drapion. I landed the Crunch, and I'm going to bring in Araquanid. Araquanid does not do great against Azu, but my plan here is I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to convert some of Araquanid's massive bulk into energy, because I'm more than happy to take hits from the Azumarill. That's not going to be a problem. I'm going to go for a Bubble Beam here intentionally because, again, I want to take hits, but I do want to still preserve a little bit of HP. So now I can farm up quite a bit of energy here. I want to bank a Bug Buzz for later and bring in the Miltank. Opponent is staying. They're throwing energy, and that is amazing for me. This is debuffed. I'm not going to be shielding that. Play Rough not going to do a whole lot. Back in comes the Shadow Magnezone, and I'm going to start spamming out Body Slams. Body Slam is going to connect. That does not do a lot of damage. Perfect timing from the opponent as they go for 2-volt switches and the move. They're probably just going for Mirror Shot. Here, I debated going for the Thunderbolt because I believe it does ever so slightly more. The Body Slam is going to connect. They let me get another Body Slam, and if they shield, I'm going to combo play with a Bubble Beam. They shield, the switch to the Araquanid, and they don't throw their energy. I get the snipe. They lose so much energy on that Magnezone. Magnezone gets KO'd. In comes Azumarill. Azumarill is going to make a move, but I have a shield on Araquanid, and I think Araquanid's energy will be good and back. So I commit the shield. I'm going for the full Bug Bite down, and I get it. They don't get a move. In the back is Dugong, and I should be in a pretty good spot here. Firing off the Bug Buzz, that's going to connect. The switch to Miltank, I'm going to commit to a Thunderbolt because this forces them to throw their energy. And now their energy dry, I just have to get a Bug Buzz on the Araquanid. I got some very valuable rollouts, which means that they are now in Bug Buzz range. So I had no health remaining on any of my Pokemon, but we're still able to clutch out the win. We pick up a very tough lead in the next match, Araquanid into Toxapex. I have two better answers in the back, so I go into the Drapion. Out comes Shadow Marowak, and Shadow Marowak is a pretty big problem for Drapion. Baiting it out is good because obviously Miltank would not be a fan. I do get the back-to-back Aqua Tails as the opponent decides not to fire off their energy, so I do get to force a shield. However, of course, due to the rock slide coverage, they will be able to hit for super effective damage on the Araquanid, and I really need this Miltank to sweep in the back. They will be firing off the Rock Slide. That does quite a lot of damage, and they just have so much stored energy. It's going to be another Rock Slide from the Marowak, getting Araquanid deep into the red. Araquanid gets a very nice farm down, exiting with some energy. In the back is Low Kicks, and this is actually a winnable game. Low Kicks farming up a ton of energy. I accidentally played to the CMP tie. That is not what I was hoping to do. They will go for the Trailblaze. Body Slam will not knock out here. My opponent does decide to shield, and I go for the Thunderbolt because Thunderbolt will be able to KO. In hindsight, I think maybe I should have gone for a Body Slam and a rollout farm down because then I would have more residual energy. And now I'm in a bit of an awkward spot where I'm actually going to get outpaced by this Toxapex. Toxapex, Brine is going to grab the shield. I can go for the Thunderbolt, and if I had Body Slammed and farmed down, I get outpaced and get to a second Thunderbolt. But I didn't. So instead, I'm going to have to rely on a Body Slam plus Bug Buzz KOing. So I Body Slam, I wait the turn to try for the catch, but the catch is unsuccessful. I fire off the Bug Buzz into the Toxapex, does not KO. And unfortunately, if I had been slightly better with my energy management, Miltank could have swept in the endgame there, but I wasn't precise enough, so the game will end in a loss. We move to the next match. Amazing lead. Araquanid versus Dugong, and they're staying in. Oh my goodness, if they're staying in, they've got to be ABA weak. And that's something that I noticed quite a bit when running this team, was honestly Araquanid proved to be a pretty effective core breaker as well. People were just not accounting for it when it came to team building, and there was a decent amount of matches where people just had to stay in really bad leads versus the Araquanid because they had something else in the back that was even weaker. Now this Dugong is doing a pretty good job at heavily debuffing me, and this means that whenever my opponent sends in their next Pokemon, I'm probably going to look to pivot out, because I want to reset the debuffs. Opponent brings in Pangoro, I'm going to pivot out into the Drapion. Pangoro, that was only 4. This can only be a Night Slash. Unless I had missed one, which I didn't think I did, and in the back is going to be Gastrodon, and this will be a very interesting game. The opponent just triple weak to the Araquanid. Crunch comes through, does get the defense drop, which is very, very clutch, and I get to fire off the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail is going to land, in comes Araquanid, and I shouldn't have brought this in. What I should have done was just brought in the Miltank. Bringing this in is a pretty big error. As bringing in the Miltank, getting ahead on energy, that's how I can try and defeat the Pangoro. I shield as they will go for the Earth Power, and in comes Pangoro. What I wanted to do by shielding the Earth Power is force them to go for a close combat. Because of course, when they close combat, they're suddenly going to be a lot easier to get rid of. They let me get to a Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt will not knock out, but it will do quite a lot of damage, and from here, I just always no-shield. A Night Slash won't cut it. They have to close combat, and if they do, it suddenly becomes a lot easier for Araquanid to farm down. Their switch clock should be up shortly, and there it is. In comes the Gastrodon, trying to get to the Body Slam, but Araquanid says no. Making it to the Bug Buzz. Bug Buzz KOs the Gastrodon. In comes Pangoro. We get the Bug Bite farm down. For being triple weak to Araquanid, they made that game very close. Amazing lead in the next match here, leading into Malamar. Opponent is going to save switch into the Toxapex, and I have a pretty nice response available with the Miltank. Honestly, I don't even care if I end up losing swap here, because whether it's Drapion or whether it's going to be the Araquanid, I have very good matchups across the board against this Malamar. I'm able to tank the Sludge Wave, make it to the Thunderbolt here versus the Toxapex. Toxapex does decide to commit the shield. So the opponent making a play for switch advantage. They bring in the Malamar and they get the snipe. My switch clock was just not yet up. So that's a pretty nice play there by my opponent. They are going to be firing off the foul play here. And I'm going to try and overfarm and go for a catch onto the Drapion. And I get the catch. That's huge. And now if they're in 5 Poison Sting range, I am in such a good spot here. Looking for the farm down with the Drapion, but the miscalculation, they survive on 1 HP to make the superpower, and I'm forced to give up a shield. In the back is Dugong, and this honestly does feel like a pretty good game for me here, as I just have so much energy everywhere. I can launch crunch after crunch into the Dugong. I have a bunch of stored energy on the Araquanid, so I can switch into the Araquanid. I don't even end up throwing it this time. I'm just going to catch. I get the catch of the Icy Wind, in comes the Toxapex, and Toxapex will immediately be debuffed with the Bubble Beam. Bubble Beam not going to do much of anything, but it's to incentivize them to throw energy, because if they try and farm down, I can get to a Bug Buzz. They go for a Brine, I get to the Bug Buzz anyway. Araquanid putting in a lot of work here. Bug Buzz, can't quite get the KO, but I do get the farm down. In comes Dugong, the switch out to the Drapion. Drapion is going to secure the Poison Sting farm down and take the win. Hopping into the final match, leading Araquanid into the Shadow Marowak. Shadow Marowak is going to farm up to the rock side, but before they get there, I can make a Bubble Beam. If you go Bug Buzz in the zeros, it is actually a slight loss for Araquanid, so you will need to go the Bubble Beam route first, just so that way you're able to tank all the Mud Slaps and the 2 Rock Slides to be able to make it to a Bug Buzz that will be able to knock out. So the opponent is going to be firing off the Rock Slide is going to connect, but Araquanid is going to get the Bug Buzz. From here, a Bubble Beam wouldn't quite knock out, so I'm just going to guarantee either the first shield or Switch Advantage. And I get Switch Advantage. In comes Dugong, and boy do I have something for Dugong. In comes Miltank. Miltank going to get outpaced due to their 1 Ice Shard head start. The one thing I'll have to watch for is a potential catch attempt. So I'm going to throw 1, wait the turn to make sure I see the Ice Shard start, and then I can unleash Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt lands, that deals substantial damage. Opponent firing off energy, and I'm just going to let this go. Their Mud Slapper was on the lead, which means Shadow Drapion is safe. So I aggressively switch into the Drapion. It's Talonflame in the back. Trainer, I'm so sorry. This game is over. I can launch Aqua Tail after Aqua Tail at the Talonflame. Talonflame hasn't even gotten to a move yet, and it's already forced to double shield as the barrage of Aqua Tails from Drapion is just absolutely unending. They go for the fly. They're one off the next fly, but I can just always outpace with the Drapion, making it to the Aqua Tail. This is super effective damage, getting them very low. The switch to the Miltank. The rollout will go through as long as I shield, so that just KOs them. And now I have the Thunderbolt ready and waiting to go for the Dugong. So Dugong re-enters the field just to get knocked out, and we're able to take the win. All in all, I had extremely positive sets with this team. I do think running a Pokemon like Araquanid is a little bit technical, because knowing when to Bubble Beam versus when to Bug Buzz is honestly something that even I'm not the greatest at overall. But the team ended up working out very well. And with regards to Miltank in the Open Great League, I do think it honestly has quite a bit of play at the current moment. I'll honestly put it down as a very viable meta core breaker. It falls into that anti-meta role, where it's not one of the best Pokemon you can use, but currently it's very good at breaking a lot of the popular cores. Like, you're going to see a lot of teams that feature Dugong safe switches, a lot of Ariados plus water cores, like Ariados Azumarill, Ariados Feraligatr, Moltres teams, and Miltank, with its unique coverage being the normal type, so resisting the Shadow Claws, having Rollout and rock damage is amazing in the current meta, and then having Thunderbolt to cover for Pokemon like Azumarill. Overall, I was impressed, and I think Miltank is genuinely viable anti-meta if you're wanting to run something a little bit more interesting than a standard meta team. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated, so thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.